So, Daniel Dubois has just fucking utterly annihilated Anthony Joshua in the most one-sided, heavyweight title contest I can remember in God knows how many years. I don't even know. Like, that was so one-sided. You know what? The fight reminded me of Vladimir Klitschko against Corey Sanders, where Corey Sanders just went into the ring in that fight. The referee called for the opening bell, just bum rushed Klitschko and whooped his ass and just walked through him like a hot knife through butter. Just Dubois went in there with no All right, look, I don't even know where to begin. I guess we can begin with the beginning of the fight. I can't even give a thorough synopsis of this fight because Joshua was on the canvas so much that I don't even. I don't have a good enough recollection. He was knocked down 4 times, but I can't pinpoint the specific moments. I just know the first 2 times, it was near the end of the round. He was saved by the bell twice, and the first time he looked out of it. Now, in this fight, look, Dubois, I'll just assess their game plans. Dubois managed to score knockdowns in rounds 1, rounds 1, 3, 4, and 5. He scored the knockout. But the way these two came out, you could immediately see that Joshua was not used to the type of pace that Dubois was going to set. Joshua, in his 2 stoppage defeats, which have come to Andy Ruiz and, of course, now Daniel Dubois, went in with guys who excel in exchanges or are better in exchanges than him. Joshua, I made the comparison of Vladimir Klitschko versus Corey Sanders in the beginning of the video. Joshua does not like to have to exchange. He's a puncher, but he doesn't like to have to exchange. He needs, if he's going to win a fight at a high level, he needs to be in full control of the terms of the fight. He needs to be able to control his opponent with his jab, with his movement. And if you go in there, if his power does not intimidate you, if his physicality doesn't intimidate you, more than likely, if you have power, he's in a world of trouble. Because not only does he not really naturally have the temperament, he's naturally kind of a timid sort of a fighter, but he doesn't have a great chin, and his powers of recovery are not particularly good either, as he really never recovered from those first few jabs that Dubois landed on him. Those first few jabs Dubois landed on him had Joshua on the back foot. Joshua, he seemed more confident in this fight, but you could naturally tell he was scared to commit to his power shots really until he realized he was at a point of no return. But he was fighting with his hands down. He was turning off. He was trying to exchange with Dubois in the pocket until he realized that Dubois he was physically stronger than him in the ring. He was able to push Joshua off easily. Joshua was not able to sustain long clinches against him, and the referee was on his side too. The referee was not warning him for any of his holding. The referee was going up to Dubois, warning him for the low blows and the headbutts and all that type of stuff, which, I mean, you know, I guess technically was. I picked Joshua to win this fight, but one of the reasons why is I did anticipate that the tactics that he used against Hrgovic with the headbutting, you know, the low center of gravity, the smothering, and all that type of stuff would not be permitted in this fight. And they weren't. But it didn't matter. He didn't need none of that shit. He just walked into the pocket, jabbed his way in, bum rushed Joshua early, and Joshua basically just shat his pants. I mean, people are saying Joshua is washed. Is Joshua the same fighter he was before the Ruiz fight? No, he's not. But the truth is, if you look at Joshua as a fighter, if you look at his attributes, I've already broken down. He doesn't have the greatest stamina. He doesn't have the greatest chin. He doesn't have good powers of recovery. He doesn't like to exchange. All right. Joshua, he's going to look best against guys who aren't big punchers. He's going to look best against guys who like to stick and move on the back foot, that he can take his time against, that he can time on the way in. He's not going to look good against street fighters and bum rushers and guys like that because he doesn't have the temperament and he doesn't have the attributes to be able to be a matador. He doesn't. He doesn't have the foot speed to be able to get away from their shots. Dubois was on the front. Typically, the guy on the back foot is the guy with the quicker, or the guy who appears to have quicker feet anyways, because obviously they have more ground to cover in the ring. They're constantly moving from rope to rope. looking to get away from the opponent. They're the ones on the retreat. In spite of that, it was Dubois whose feet looked quicker, whose feet looked more agile, who was able to get from point A to point B quicker. It was a damn mismatch. I mean, he just walked in there. He got caught with a few shots here and there. But I mean, before the knockout, he got momentarily stunned with a right hand. Joshua, on the way in... Alright, I'll get to that in just a second. Let me just go over the knockout. So he caught Dubois with a big right hand, momentarily stunned him. Dubois actually caught him back. If you watch before that actual knockout happened, Dubois caught him with a big right hand again, and Joshua... He didn't step back, but you could clearly see his knees buckle. So you could see a visible reaction out of that right hand right before he got clipped again. But Joshua, who had been knocked down multiple times and who really already needed a knockout at that point, or several knockdowns to be able to claw his way back into the fight, got overconfident, decided to lunge in, really against his character when, I mean, if you look at how he performed against Ruiz in those two fights after he got caught, he didn't, he wasn't exactly rushing back into exchanges. Even though it was a scared form of patience, he did show patience at least. He didn't show any patience in this case. He pretty much, in a last-ditch effort, tried to catch him again. Similar, I suppose, to Pacquiao before he got caught by Marquez. And he got caught with another big right hand and got planted all over the canvas. In the beginning of round 4, actually, and I'm going to get to my point about Dubois in just a second. Basically, Joshua got knocked down again. But the referee didn't... Or no. I'm misremembering it. No, it was at the end of round 3. He got knocked down again. But the referee basically ruled it a slip. Look, when he got caught again and put down, he was sending Dubois to the other side of the ring, and he was waving his hands up as though he was stopping it. Now, typically, when a fighter slips down to the canvas, they're usually... waving their hands around their waist. They're like waving their hands down as if to signify the fighter went down to the canvas by way of not a knockdown. They slipped. But he was waving his hands up. But when he realized the bell rang, he decided to basically... He gave Joshua extra time to recover after the knockdowns. He tried to save Joshua. He tried to do his best for him, but there was nothing Joshua could have done in this fight. He doesn't have the attributes. He doesn't have the punch resistance. He doesn't have the temperament. He doesn't have the defensive skills. He doesn't have the agility. He doesn't have the footwork. He was completely overmatched in this fight. He has a little more technical ability, maybe a little more skills than Dubois, but it didn't matter. He just got bum rushed. Dubois walked in there with the confidence, with the heart of a lion, and just walked right through him. I mean, damn. But look, Dubois, I got so many things I want to say. I'm trying to keep this video under like 12 or so minutes. But look, Dubois went in there, and what I will say about Dubois is he has definitely come a long way mentally. As opposed to the guy early in his career who kind of caved, at the sign of trouble, now that I kind of look back in retrospect now, even though I kind of assumed he had a lack of heart, and even in certain ways, I feel like Dubois struggles to handle fights where he's, where he's mentally sort of confused by the geography of the fight, if you will. If he finds himself getting outboxed and he's under a lot of mental pressure, those instances I think he's more susceptible to quitting. But you can clearly tell that these brutal fights and the damage he's taken, the busted up eye sockets, the right hands he was taking off Hrgović, taking those shots against Usyk and all that type of stuff, those things clearly built his confidence up. Sometimes confidence is, or most of the time confidence is natural, but sometimes it is built up. And clearly Dubois has more confidence in his ability to overcome physical punishment. And, he clearly has more ability, more confidence in his own durability than he did early in his career. He doesn't fear, walking into the fire and getting caught again, because now he's actually had those moments. Whereas before the Joyce fight, and really before the Usyk fight too, well, I won't say before the Usyk fight, he got dropped against damn Kevin Lerena. We saw what happened in that fight. But really before the Joyce fight, the dude didn't fight anybody who posed any threat whatsoever. I mean, the only time he got, a guy even tried was Larte when he caught him with the right hand. But now that he's actually stepped up, he's built his confidence up, he's shown a little bit more toughness, And he's a better fighter now. He's more confident. He's mentally tougher. Fair play to Dubois, man. He's a damn good heavyweight. I would love, if he wants to rematch Usyk. I mean, he was 15 pounds heavier in this fight than he was in the first fight. It could be an interesting rematch, even though he was pretty comfortably beaten the first time. And I'd like to see him against Tyson Fury, possibly. I mean, we saw Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's been down 8 times in his career. He's taken a lot of punishment, and particularly if he's to lose a rematch against Usyk, get hurt again, get stopped, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I mean, look, I think Fury has the style to basically disarm Dubois, but that could be an interesting fight. I mean, Dubois has certain attributes. He's tough. He's gonna swing for the fences. He can throw looping shots. He does have a little bob and weave game to him when he's applying pressure. That could be an interesting fight. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think he'd have a decent enough chance against Tyson Fury, particularly if Tyson Fury is, as diminished as a lot of people say he is, which he very well could be. I mean, he's taken a lot of punishment. He's done a lot of cocaine. What else? I mean, and Joshua did seem to have more confidence heading into this fight. The problem is, guys like Robert Helenius, Jermaine Franklin, Francis Ngannou, and Otto Wallin are not going to cut it. Because 2 of those guys are not punchers. Robert Helenius was washed up. Those guys, I mean, he had sparred Otto Wallin God knows how many years ago. Beat him in the amateurs multiple times. Beat him up in sparring. He had all the confidence in the world going up against a guy he had 100% total familiarity with. And this is the first time he actually really got his punch resistance and his heart tested. And he passed the heart test. But we saw in this fight his ability to overcome and neutralize pressure and guys who can really come forward and get in his chest has not improved whatsoever. Should he retire? I don't know. I will say that this is the last point I'm going to make. This is a good result for the division. Because, to a certain extent, every era needs its passing of the torch moment. We saw it with the Klitschko's. We saw Tyson lose before, the 90s heavyweight era really kicked off, and Holyfield and all those guys started establishing themselves at the top. Every era needs, to kind of... It needs its conclusion, and even though Joshua isn't the top guy like Usyk is, he is one of the more decorated heavyweights of the past 2 decades. And getting a guy from the newer generation like Dubois, being able to beat him, particularly in the fashion that he did, validates, the ability and the credibility, anyways, of the younger heavyweights to a certain extent, showing that, yeah, they could compete with the guys who came before them. So I'm happy for Dubois. He proved me wrong and made me look like a motherfucking idiot. I'll see y'all later.